So Darren and I were given the question about the fox, the chicken and the sack of corn. You're probably familiar with this one. You've got a man who's got a rowboat and he can carry one thing at a time and he needs to get all three things across the river. And he can't leave the fox and the chicken together because the fox will eat the chicken, and he can't leave the chicken and the corn together because the chicken will eat the corn. How does the man do it? So we were going to use the iPad, but Darren's really keen on his cartoon drawings, and he wouldn't like this sort of situation where when you paste something you get these white spaces around the edges. Now, we knew of a nice easy way to get rid of these using SMARTboard. So instead of doing the whole lot on the iPad, we actually used SMARTboard to create the slides and then pasted them in. So we could go through the whole problem, we could talk through the scenario. So found ourselves a boat and it happened to be a pirate ship. So our man's actually a pirate. And we've got our fox who's trying to eat the chicken, which is trying to eat the corn. But while the pirate's watching over them, everything's okay. So he can only carry one thing. Now, he's only got one option to begin with because he can't leave the fox and the chicken or the chicken and the corn, so he'll have to leave the fox and the corn. So he's going to go sailing across the river with the chicken in the boat and the fox and the corn safely on the bank over there. So he sails over and he drops off the chicken, and here he is sailing back, and he's going to come back over the river here. And what can he do then? Well, he's going to have to think a bit carefully, but perhaps at this stage, if this was students watching a video, you might ask them to pause the video and try and think ahead of what's going to happen next. So it turns out what he needs to do is to pick up the fox. Now, you might think this is dangerous because once he gets over here, the fox is going to eat the chicken. But he can do a little swap. He can drop off the fox and pick up the chicken, so that he leaves the fox on this bank of the river, and here he is taking the chicken back over to do the same sort of manoeuvre, drop off the chicken and pick up the corn. So here we go, he's dropped off the chicken, chicken's left on the bank, he's got the corn, he's heading over to the fox, and again he can leave the fox and the corn safely together on this bank of the river. He's going to sail back and pick up the chicken, and he's bringing the chicken over, and finally he ends up with everybody all happily on this bank of the river. He can moor his pirate ship and off he goes. Problem solved. Now, the idea of using a SMARTboard is basically because we're really familiar with the SMARTboard software. So one simple thing you can do, if you've already done a question on a SMARTboard, you can export that as a PDF file and just email that PDF to yourself, take a photo of the PDF on your iPad and paste it into your SMARTboard. Then you'll have something that might look like this log question. Now, what you can then do is get a white pen, maybe a nice fat white pen, and just draw over the last thing you're going to talk about. This is not while you're videoing it, this is just kind of preparation work, and go through and kind of rub out effectively. You're actually writing over in white the things in reverse order that you want to talk about them. So I would prepare my slide by rubbing out all these bits, and then when I want to make the video, I'd start recording and then I'd press the undo button. So I can start talking about the first bit being that log 1 is 0, and I can talk about what I'm doing. I can talk about the base A and how this is like a to the power of 0 is 1, and reveal this section where I've actually written this down. And of course I'm using this arrow to point at stuff as I go along. Press the undo button again. Here's my next bit. Waffle on a bit. Here we go. Bish bash bosh. Question done. All finished. Nice word solution for the students.